let's just start with the COVID situation. I mean, clearly, it's still an illness, a disease that, frankly, isn't well understood. So obviously, governments are cautious in terms of how they apply restrictions on the economy. I think it's possibly fair to say it's not as fatal a disease as we maybe thought back in March. So I think that is tempering government responses in that they're not imposing the sort of lockdowns we saw back in March, and we're not likely to see them imposed in the short term unless things deteriorate markedly. Of course, why are people selling? Well, of course, it has an impact on economic activity in the markets that are even partially locked down. It also has an impact on sentiment. But I think there's a bigger driver, really, and it's really coming from the US, whereby there's the uncertainty about the presidential election. There's uncertainty about whether new stimulus packages will be applied. And also, we've had a great run in some of the very hot areas of the market, like technology and so on. And people are now starting to question things like valuations there, which is just weighing on sentiment generally. And that feeds through to Europe.
On the stimulus point, as you mentioned, this is one of the key themes that investors are watching quite closely. You've written an interesting point in your note that whoever wins the U.S. election will spend a lot of money they don't have to. Are you saying that we don't need to see further stimulus from authorities to stimulate a robust recovery?
Well, what we actually meant was whoever wins the election is going to spend a lot of money that they don't have, rather than they don't have to. The question, do they have to or not? I mean, that could be something that economists will debate for the next 50 years, I would imagine. In terms of politically, what do you have to do to survive, to get elected? You absolutely have to spend money that you don't have. There's huge pressure to every project that exists. You must spend money on it. For example, in the UK, we've seen, it's a different example, but you've seen the whole debate about meals for children out in the school holidays. Now, there's all sorts of arguments for and against, but at the end of the day, the money can be borrowed. So therefore, politically, it will happen. And that's the choice that politicians all around the world face, really. You either spend money, borrow money and spend it, or you don't get elected. So if the choice is lose office or spend money in a way that you think is maybe unwise, they will spend money in a way they think is unwise.